Okay, our next example then is going to be find the equation of the tangent. Find the equation of the tangent from the point 6, 2 to the circle x squared plus y squared minus 8y minus 2y, sorry, I said that wrong, minus 8x minus 2y plus 12 equals 0. Right, what did we do last time? We'll start doing the same thing again. It's pretty much advisable to do it on any question. So somebody who hasn't said anything so far, what do we do? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So x squared minus 8x, then leave a gap. Y squared minus 2y, leave a gap. And then take the 12 across the other side. Can anybody tell me then the first bracket? Maybe somebody who hasn't said anything so far? Yep. Good. Okay, and what do I immediately have to subtract from there? Yes, 16, that's 4 squared. Good. Do you want to do the y one as well for me?
Plus y minus 1 squared.
Yep.
Minus 1.
Yeah, good. And then what Patrick was telling you about last time, just have the brackets on the left. Get all the numbers on the right. Is anybody ahead of me? What number does that work out to be on the right? 5, yeah, so. What do we know then about that circle? We know its centre is 4, 1, and its radius is root 5. Okay, there we go. That's helpful. Now, if we're going to do the drawing, I'm going to run out of space on the bottom of that bit of paper. Root 5, it was helpful to think of that as a decimal. What's that going to be roughly as a decimal? 2 point something, isn't it? It's 2 point something, because if it was 9 in there, inside it'd be 3, 4 would be 2, so it's 2 point something. That's enough for us to do the sketch, just knowing it's 2 point something. So, we'll sketch a circle, put its centre in at 4, 1. Is it crossing any of the axes? Yeah, it's only 1 above the x-axis, its centre, but it goes down 2 point something, so it will cross the x-axis. So we can draw that like that. Will it cross the y-axis? No, because it's 4 to the right of the y-axis, and it'll only come 2 point something left. So it's going to look like that. And I really do suggest you put the circle in first rather than the axes. It just makes it easier. I find it anyway. Now, what point was it talking about in this question? 6,2. Now, question to ask yourself really, this 6,2 is where does that go on the diagram? In the middle of the circle?
Well,
Inside the circle. How do you know that?
If you go across 6, it will still be within the 2 something plus 4. So, and then you go up 2, it will still be within the 4.
Okay. Ooh, people disagree. So,
no, it is going to be inside.
our equation,
If the point's only 6 and the radius goes up by 2 points, it's still going to be inside by something.
No, but we're going across 2 from 4,
Right.
so it'll still just be inside it.
this is the way to do it, okay? This is the way to do it that always tells you. That's your equation. This point up here, that 6 is an x value, that 2 is a y value. Substitute it in the left-hand side. X minus 4 all squared plus y minus 1 all squared. And now, we'll leave the 5 because we'll work out what this actually is. What is 6 minus 4 all squared?
4.
What is 2 minus 1 all squared? Yeah, it's actually equal to that. It's the same as that. If it's the same as that number, it means it is actually on the circle. Okay? So we substituted the points in, and what you then look at is this number here. Find that highlighting pen again if I can.
Does that mean that the radius is exactly 2?
No, the radius is 2 point something, we said, so it's gone off the top. So the radius was 2 point something, root 5 the radius.
But it's,
If we're
but it's
going-
on the circle.
Yeah, and we're going across 2. Then
We'll have a, can you just hold that thought for a minute? We will have a look, okay? If I can just concentrate on this bit here for a minute. If when you substitute this in, if that value there is equal to the number that you had on the right-hand side, if that's equal to the right-hand side, what that tells you is that the point is on
so we can't see it.
the circle. Okay, thanks for telling me, okay? If that point value you get when you substitute is equal to the right-hand side number, the point is on the circle. I want to write 2 other lines down here. What are my other options? If it's not equal to the right-hand side, it could be greater than or less than. Yeah. If this number here was greater than the right-hand side number I had up here, what do you think that would mean?
Outside.
Yes. If it's greater than, it would mean it's outside of the circle. And if the number I got from substituting was less than 5, it would be inside the circle. That's correct. Because if you think of that being the radius, if the radius was smaller than 5, it would be a smaller circle, it would be inside the circle. So that bit there is actually quite important. Okay, if you may want to write a few other explanatory notes down alongside that, but that is quite important. So, I will come back to your question in a minute. But 6,2 then I can put on my diagram. 6,2 is going to be, let's have a look. What's this? Its radius was 2 point something. So it's going to, this point over here is going to be 6 point something. So 6 is a little bit left of that. And 2 is above that point. So the point I'm talking about, 6,2, is going to be about here somewhere. Okay? So I've got that. It's on the circle. It's not as far out as the extreme right-hand bit, because that would be 6 point something. And the y value 2 is above that. So that's the drawing that you get. So, we are asked about the equation of the tangent there. Yes, he's right. Your sensible question, he's right. Okay, if it just touches there, what we'll have is the tangent will be a line like that. Okay, and it will just touch it the once. So the tangent will be that line there, just touching the circle. And what other line will it be useful probably to draw in, like last time? The radius. And what about those 2 straight lines? 90 degrees. Right angles, perpendicular, whatever you want there, okay? So, as we've gone through, we've added more information to that diagram up there. I'm just going to start on another bit of paper because it'll be easier, otherwise I can't show you everything that's going on at once. That's sheet 3, this is sheet 4. So, I need to find the equation of my black line. Any ideas on what I can do, how I can do that? We have one hand up, we have somebody else there. Anybody else, any ideas? What do I need for an equation of a straight line? Gradient and y-intercept. So I'm aiming now for something looking like y equals mx plus c for my black line. That's what I am aiming for. Okay? Where m, we have said, is the gradient. Can I work out the gradient of that black line? No. Well, that's not very helpful.
Draw the triangle.
Or you could work out the normal, the radius, what's the normal, because you have 2 points.
Right.
And then
And you make
find
the-
the
yeah.
negative.
If I work out the gradient of the radius, because the radius and the tangent are at right angles to each other, when I have one gradient, I can work out the next gradient. So what I'm going to do first is work out the gradient of, I'll call it the red because it's in here, of the red radius. the gradient of the radius, because I know the coordinates of its two endpoints. The radius goes from 4, 1 to 6, 2. So if I've got those 2 points, I can work out the gradient. How do you work out the gradient from there? We've done it already. James? Yeah, you can do it that way if you want, okay? If that's the way you've done it before, you can do it that way. It's basically the change in the y's divided by the change in the x. If you want, you could put a right angle triangle in here. You can say from 4 along to 6 along, it's gone along 2. From a y coordinate of 1 to a y coordinate of 2, it's gone up 1. The gradient is 1 over 2. The gradient of the radius is a half. That's the gradient of the radius. So what can I do to that gradient of the radius to get the gradient of the black line? I need to write this down. Gradient of the black tangent. Negative reciprocal. Yes. It is minus 1 over, because it's perpendicular, minus 1 over that number. That's how you do perpendicular gradients. So that means, and if people don't like these triple-decker fractions, that means minus 1 divided by a half. And if you're dividing fractions, keep, change, flip, what are you going to get? Minus 2. Okay? So minus 2 is the gradient of the tangent. And earlier, we said the equation we're looking for, y equals mx plus c. I now know that m is that minus 2. So I get y equals minus 2x plus c. So I now have to go and find out what c will be. Is there anybody who maybe hasn't spoken so far? How can I finish this off? Yes?
You use the coordinates that you're given.
I'll use the coordinate of the point. So if I go down here, that's the point I have on my black line, 6, 2. So if I use that coordinate 6, 2, 2 is the y number, 6 is the x number. Substitute that in here. I get y equals minus 2 lots of x plus c. 2 equals minus 12 plus c. So what will c equal? 14. So I finally get my equation is y equals minus 2x plus 14, which is the correct answer. And we'll stop there.